The trade hub above Kalesa 4 was a marvel of alien engineering. A city in orbit with long silver towers, glowing bridges, and endless docking bays for ships of every size and design. Creatures of 100 species filled its walkways. Bright banners hung across the market plazas, and lights danced in celebration of the annual Festival of Unity. Among the visitors was a small group of humans. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, but their curiosity made them appear everywhere. In the middle of the group ran Mira, a young girl of only 7 years. She wore a bright red dress and carried a little wooden toy ship in her hand. Her laughter carried through the crowd, light and warm, making even the tallest and coldest alien guards turn their heads. Mira's father, Ambassador Elias Caro, smiled as he tried to keep up with her. He was here for politics, negotiations, and endless council meetings. But Mira? She was here to explore, to look at all the strange faces and to remind everyone of something simple, that humanity was alive and bright with wonder. The festival plaza was alive with music from 3 worlds. Stalls offered glowing drinks, food wrapped in crystal shells, and toys that floated in the air. Mira ran to a stand where a vendor from the Scifi species sold tiny glowing spheres that sang when touched. She tapped one and it filled the air with a sweet melody. The Scifi vendor chuckled, handing her the sphere for free. Humans, the vendor said softly, shaking his head. So small, yet their joy spreads far. But in the crowd, not all eyes were kind. Hidden among the festival goers was a group of zealots. They belonged to a dying faction that hated humanity's rise. To them, humans were dangerous, too ambitious, too fast in their growth. They whispered among themselves, "The council is blind." They let the primates in. They must be taught fear. And they had chosen their symbol. Not the ambassador, not the soldiers, but the child. The attack came suddenly. One moment music filled the air, the next a flash of red light tore through the plaza. Screams filled the station as an explosion ripped through the stalls. Mira dropped her toy and cried out. Her father lunged for her, but a tall alien with burning eyes was already there, holding a thin blade that shimmered with deadly energy. Elias shouted. He ran, pushing through the panicked crowd, but it was too late. The blade struck. Mira fell. For a heartbeat, the world froze. The zealots vanished into the chaos, leaving nothing but smoke, screams, and a small human body lying still on the festival floor. Elias reached her, his hands shaking as he held her, begging her to breathe. The wooden toy ship rolled from her fingers. The station's alarm screamed. Guards rushed in. But the deed was done. A single human child was dead. The news spread like fire. On Kalesa 4, the streets fell into mourning. Alien merchants who had once looked at humans with mild amusement now bowed their heads in silence. On the Interstellar Council's homeworld, debates turned into shouting matches. Many species shrugged at first. It was only one child in a galaxy where billions died each day in wars, accidents, and hunger. Why was this different? But for humans, it was everything. On Earth, the story appeared on every screen. Mira's face, a laughing child with wide eyes, burned itself into history. Protests filled the cities. Soldiers demanded action. Parents held their children close, whispering that if one child could be struck so far away, then no one was safe. Ambassador Elias stood before the council, his voice breaking yet strong. One child, he said, holding up Mira's toy ship, is not just one life. She was the hope of my people. She was the laughter that crossed alien lines. She was proof that humanity belongs here among the stars. And now she is gone. What will you do? The council responded with speeches of caution, promises of investigation, and warnings not to escalate. They called for patience, for calm, for diplomacy. But Earth was not calm. In hidden halls beneath the surface of Luna, alarms that had not sounded in centuries came alive. Deep under the deserts of Mars, massive bunkers opened, and in the asteroid belts of Sol, something ancient stirred. Few remembered the silent wars, a conflict so long ago that even the archives had grown dusty with half-forgotten reports. But humanity remembered. In those desperate years before the Council ever noticed them, Earth had built something to survive extinction. Not fleets like other species had, fast, efficient, logical fleets. No, humanity had built monsters of metal and fire. Warships designed with only one rule: never break, never bow, fight until the stars burn out. The Armada of Silence. For generations it had slept, locked away by oath. Earth had sworn never to release it unless humanity was struck at its very heart. But Mira's death was the final key. A child murdered not in battle but in peace became the line that no one could cross. From Earth's oceans rose titanic carriers hidden beneath the waves. From asteroids cracked open by coded detonations rose cruisers, their hulls black with ancient scars. From forgotten shipyards came destroyers and dreadnoughts, their cannons like mountains. Millions watched from the skies above Earth as the void itself seemed to open and swallow light. The Armada was rising. Across the galaxy, species trembled. Some laughed at first. Humans, their ships are old, ancient relics. What can Rust do against modern fleets? But then the first transmissions leaked. Grainy images of the ships awakening. Cruisers larger than cities. Carriers so massive their shadows swallowed moons. Destroyers with engines that burned brighter than suns. The laughter stopped. Aliens who had seen the silent wars, the very few who still lived, went pale and silent. They whispered the words with fear. The Armada walks again. The zealots who had killed Mira received the message in their hidden fortress system. At first they celebrated. We struck them where it hurts, they boasted. The humans will howl, but the council will chain them. They cannot touch us. But when they saw the ships rise, their voices fell quiet. For the first time, they wondered if they had not awakened something far worse than they imagined. On Earth, Ambassador Elias stood before the assembled commanders of the Armada. His face was worn with grief, but his eyes burned with fire. My daughter's name was Mira, he said. She will not be forgotten. Her death was not just hers. It was every child's, every family's. The galaxy does not understand us yet. They think one child means nothing. But for us, one child means everything. This Armada does not rise for conquest. It rises for justice, and it will not stop until the stars understand what it means to harm humanity. The commanders saluted. Engines roared. One by one, the ships turned their bows to the stars. From Luna's dark side, the first dreadnought leapt into faster-than-light travel, its wake tearing space like thunder. Then another, then hundreds, then thousands. And across the galaxy, sensors blinked with warning. Alien admirals sat in silent fear. The council chambers shook with arguments. Merchants closed their ports. Entire civilizations held their breath, because something was coming, something old, something human. The Armada cut through space like a storm. Thousands of ships, old but terrifying, moved in perfect silence. They did not blink with bright colors like alien fleets. They did not broadcast warnings or pride. They were black, sharp, and endless. Every system they passed grew quiet. Civilian ships pulled away. Alien patrol fleets moved aside, unwilling to test what they saw. Even the bravest captains whispered to their crews, "Do not get in their way. They are going hunting." The council in panic on the shining world of Yaltharis, the Interstellar Council gathered an emergency session. "This is madness," cried the Ron delegate, slamming the table with a heavy claw. "The humans cannot bring such weapons into our space. They will destabilize the entire galaxy." "They already have," another voice answered. It was from the Kalan ambassador, a species who remembered fragments of the silent wars. His face was pale. "You do not understand. These ships are not for expansion. They are for survival. If they are moving now, then the humans have decided survival itself is at stake." "They cannot destroy us all over one child," shouted a third. The chamber grew silent as the words hung in the air. Every eye turned toward the human seat. It was empty. Humanity no longer bothered with speeches. Their answer was already moving across the stars. The Armada's advance inside the command ship. Saul's Wrath, Admiral Leona Hale, stood tall on the bridge. She was a veteran of wars most of the galaxy had forgotten. Her hair was silver, her face marked with age, but her eyes burned like steel. "Report," she said. "Enemy zealot fleet located, Admiral. Their stronghold is within the Vorath expanse. Defensive numbers estimated at 600 ships supported by planetary cannons." "Against us?" The Admiral's lips tightened into something between anger and pity. "They have already chosen their graves." The Armada shifted. Space rippled as thousands of human warships bent reality around them, leaping forward in waves. The journey to the Vorath system would take hours. For the Zealots, those hours would be their last. The enemy prepares. On the Zealot world, their leaders stood in a vast bunker beneath the surface. They had once believed themselves untouchable. Their weapons were old but powerful. Their allies promised them shelter. Now those allies had gone silent. They will not dare attack us, one leader said nervously. The council will stop them. They always stop rash species. But another leader looked at the star maps and shook his head. Do you not see? The council is afraid. No one will move against the humans now. And the humans are not coming to threaten. They are coming to finish us. Above the planet, their fleets prepared. Hundreds of ships formed lines, weapons glowing, engines roaring. Pilots prayed to whatever god still listened, and in the void beyond, the first shadows of the Armada arrived. First contact. The Zealots opened fire first. Missiles, plasma, and beams of light filled space like a storm. The human ships did not scatter. They advanced as one wall of steel, their armor absorbing blow after blow. When they answered, the stars themselves seemed to shudder. Human cannons fired not in beams, but in ripples of kinetic force. Slugs of metal the size of buildings tore through shields and hulls as if they were paper. Dreadnought lances unleashed energy so bright it left afterimages on the eyes of every soldier who watched. Alien fleets had learned to fight with precision, with economy, with balance. The humans fought with something else, raw determination. They fired as if every shot carried Mira's name. Within minutes, the Zealots' front line collapsed. Dozens of ships burned, their wrecks falling into the gravity of their homeworld. The Armada pressed forward without hesitation. The human way of War Admiral Hale stood unmoving on the bridge. Push the line. Do not let them retreat. Every ship destroyed is one less that can kill another child. Her officers obeyed without question. Human tactics shocked the Zealots. Instead of fighting for territory, humans targeted command ships, communication relays, and supply lines. They adapted mid-battle, shifting formations in ways no alien fleet could match. Where an alien admiral would pause to calculate, human captains acted on instinct. Why do they not break? Cried one Zealot commander watching his fleet crumble. Why do they not stop? Because the humans had already decided this was not a war for conquest. It was justice, and justice could not be bargained with. The ground assault. The Zealots retreated behind their planetary shields, hoping the Armada would stop at orbital bombardment. But humanity did not stop. Dropships the size of towers descended through the fire. On the ground, armored soldiers marched across deserts of black glass. Tanks and walkers thundered behind them. The Zealots fought desperately, but every human soldier fought with the memory of Mira's smile. Every bullet fired, every shield raised was for her. At last, the bunkers fell. The Zealot leaders were dragged into the light, their weapons stripped, their faces pale with fear. Justice, not vengeance. The Zealot leaders expected death, but Admiral Hale stood before them with cold eyes and a voice like iron. You killed one child, she said. You thought it was small. But humanity does not measure life in numbers. We measure it in meaning. Mira Caro's life meant more than your entire fleet. You will not die here. You will face the galaxy. Every species will see what happens when innocence is broken. The leaders were taken alive, locked in cages of light. The Armada's guns fell silent. Not because they could not destroy more, but because they had already proven enough. The galaxy changes. When news of the battle spread, the galaxy fell silent. Entire species who once mocked humans now watched them with fear and respect. The council was forced to gather again. This time the human seat was not empty. Ambassador Elias Caro stood there holding Mira's toy ship in his hand. His voice carried through the chamber. My daughter's life was taken, but her memory will protect all children of the stars. From this day forward it will be law. No child, human or alien, shall be harmed without the united wrath of every civilization. This is humanity's demand. And it will be enforced. No one dared argue. The vote was unanimous. The legacy of Mira. Weeks later, the Armada returned to Sol. But this time it was not hidden away. It was anchored in orbit around Earth, Luna, and Mars, not as a secret, but as a promise. Children from every colony were brought aboard the great ships. They walked the decks, touched the cannons, and laughed in the echoing halls. The Armada had risen in anger, but now it stood as a guardian. Ambassador Elias visited Sol's wrath. He stood on the viewing deck, staring at the stars. In the reflection of the glass, he saw his daughter's face, laughing as she once had on Kalesa IV. His hand tightened around her toy ship. She will never be forgotten, he whispered. Admiral Hale stepped beside him. The galaxy understands now, she said. Not because of our guns, but because of her. They will remember Mira Caro. Elias nodded. For the first time since her death, his tears were not of sorrow but of pride. Closing, and so it was written in the records of the Council, the day the stars trembled. Not because of the size of the Armada, not because of its weapons, but because the humans had shown the galaxy a truth that could never again be ignored. That one child's life can move an entire species. That one child's smile can be worth an Armada. And from that day forward, whenever alien parents held their children close, they whispered the same words with both awe and respect. Never touch a human child, for if you do, the stars themselves will tremble.